Have you ever walked into a room and before anyone says a word, you already know something's off? Maybe it's the way two people are standing just a little too far apart, or the way someone's laugh came half a second too late. You clock it instantly, not because you're paranoid, not because you're overthinking, but because your brain has spent years building a radar system that most people simply don't have switched on. And here's the strange part. That same radar, the one that makes you brilliant at reading people, situations, and hidden meanings, is often the exact same thing that leaves you sitting alone on a Friday night, wondering why connection feels so much harder for you than it seems to be for everyone else. We like to assume that people who are perceptive, sharp, the ones who just get it, are naturally magnetic, popular even. Surely someone who can read a room that well should thrive in it, right? But psychology tells a different story. High pattern recognition isn't just a gift, it's a double-edged sword, and the isolation that so often comes with it isn't a coincidence, it's a consequence. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your brain of yours. Pattern recognition, at its core, is your mind's ability to detect regularities in language, behavior, cause and effect faster than conscious thought can keep up. It's the same mechanism that lets a chess grandmaster glance at a board and instantly sense danger 3 moves away. But when that same machinery gets pointed at people instead of pawns, things get complicated. Because human beings are inconsistent. We contradict ourselves. We say, I'm fine, while our whole body says otherwise. And if you're someone whose brain is wired to notice discrepancies, you start noticing them everywhere. The friend who's a little too eager to please, the compliment that hides a quiet dig, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Psychologists sometimes call this high sensory processing sensitivity, or in some contexts, elevated pattern-based cognition, and research by people like Elaine Aron has shown that a meaningful percentage of the population processes environmental and social information more deeply than average. Deeper processing means more input, and more input, especially about people, can be exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who isn't wired the same way. Here's the isolating part. Once you start seeing the patterns, the manipulation tactics, the social games, the performative kindness, you can't unsee them. It's like learning a magic trick. The moment you know how it's done, you can never again enjoy the illusion the way you used to. Except this isn't a magic show. This is your coworkers, your family gatherings, your group chats. And when everyone around you is still enjoying the show, still laughing at the performance, you start to feel like you're watching from behind glass. Not because you don't want to connect, but because connection built on things you can already see through feels hollow, even fake. So what do? A lot of people with this kind of mind quietly start pulling back, not out of arrogance, not because they think they're better than everyone, but out of self-protection. Constantly noticing the gap between what people say and what they mean is mentally taxing. Psychologist Herbert Simon talked about bounded rationality, the idea that our minds have limited processing capacity, and we can only handle so much complexity before we need to conserve energy. If you're spending social interactions doing this invisible extra labor of decoding, of predicting, of noticing every inconsistency, of course you're going to feel drained faster than someone who's just present. Isolation becomes the path of least resistance, not because you don't crave closeness, but because closeness with people who can't meet you at that depth starts to feel like performing a role instead of living a life.
There's also a quieter, sadder layer to this. When you see patterns other people miss, in relationships heading toward heartbreak, in friend groups about to fracture, in a family dynamic that's clearly unhealthy, and you try to point it out, you're often met not with gratitude, but with defensiveness. You're overanalyzing. Why can't you just relax and enjoy things? Over time, some people learn to stop sharing what they see at all. They go quiet not because they've stopped noticing out loud, but because they've learned that noticing out loud gets punished. That's not a personality flaw. That's a scar from experience. But here's where I want to gently push back on the sad framing, because pattern recognition isn't a curse. It's raw perceptual horsepower that simply hasn't been given the right outlet yet. The same mind that isolates you at a dinner party is the mind that makes you the friend people quietly trust with their real problems. the one who notices when someone's struggling before they say a word. Think about it like this. A smoke detector that goes off constantly isn't broken, it's just sensitive to smoke most people can't smell. The goal was never to rip out the wiring, it's to recalibrate it, to find the people and spaces where that sensitivity is valued instead of exhausting. So if you've ever felt like you overthink connection, like you can't just relax and vibe the way others seem to, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone in feeling alone. You're carrying a nervous system built for depth and a world that often only asks for surface. And once you find the handful of people who can meet you there, who don't flinch when you say the quiet thing out loud, isolation starts to loosen its grip. If this resonated with you even a little bit, I'd love to know. Do you relate to this feeling of seeing too much and connecting too little? Drop a comment and tell me your experience. And if you want more of these deep dives into the psychology behind who we are, stick around and subscribe. There's a lot more of your mind left to explore.